You left. It took everything you had, but you left. And for a few weeks, maybe even a few months, there was silence. You started to breathe, you started to heal, you started to feel like yourself again. And then she reaches out. A text about something practical, then another. Then a voicemail where she's crying, saying she finally understands what she did, that she's in therapy, that she's completely changed, that she misses the family you built together. And something deep in you responds. Not because you've forgotten all the things that she did, but because a part of you still wants to believe the version of her she's now performing. This is what Hoovering is, and it's designed to pull you back into everything you fought to escape. In today's episode of the Blueprint of Family Violence Against Men, we're going to talk about Hoovering, what it is, why it works even when you know better, and how to protect yourself when she tries to pull you back in. We'll look at the three main forms of Hoovering, what makes each one so effective, and what you can do to hold your ground. For those of you who are new here, this is Stand Again, a lived experience platform for male victims of family violence. Abuse is not limited to one gender, but this channel focuses on the male perspective because it is so often dismissed or misunderstood. If this content helps you, please like, subscribe, and add the words Stand Again into the chat. Those two words might just help a victim of family violence find theirs. Now, my apologies before we get back in, but I'm on the back end of bronchitis, so my voice is a little bit scratchy today. Let's get into Hoovering. Hoovering is the deployment of intermittent contact designed to draw you back into the relationship orbit after you have separated. The term comes from the Hoover vacuum cleaners. She's trying to suck you back into a dynamic that you fought very hard to escape. This is not reconciliation. It's recapture. The mechanism underneath Hoovering is trauma bonding. When affection, cruelty, intimacy, and rejection cycle unpredictably throughout a relationship, your brain develops a conditioned response similar to addiction. Dopamine release during positive moments becomes more powerful because of its unpredictability. The good times hit harder precisely because you never knew when they were coming. Separation does not sever this trauma bond. The neural pathways remain intact, and Hoovering just exploits them. This is why you can know exactly what she is and still feel the pull. The pull is not weakness, it's just neurobiology. Your rational mind understands the danger. Your conditioned nervous system responds to cues it was trained to respond to in the abusive relationship. When your abuser reaches out with warmth or vulnerability, or something in you activates before you can think it through, the craving is real. It operates beneath conscious decision-making. In the abusive relationship, it taught you that your value was what you provided. Your usefulness, your capacity to fix, to protect, to stabilize. When your abuser reaches out in crisis, she's not just asking for help, she's reactivating your entire sense of purpose. Her need confirms you still have value. Rejecting her means confronting something terrifying, that your worth might exist independent of being useful to her. That's not a simple boundary to hold. It's an identity crisis she's triggering deliberately. Hoovering also exploits the way you've been taught to view your own boundaries. Protecting yourself can feel like abandonment. Saying no can feel like cruelty. You may have spent years being told that your limits were selfishness, that a real man would stay, that your needs didn't matter. Those messages do not disappear after separation, at least not without help. So when your abuser presents as helpless, reformed, or in crisis, you're not just fighting her pull. You're fighting internalized beliefs about what kind of man you think you are if you refuse to respond. There are three main forms hoovering takes. Each exploits a different vulnerability. Each is designed to get you back within your abuser's reach. Type 1 is attachment recall. Attachment recall deploys memories of positive relationship moments to reactivate the trauma bond. Your abuser reminds you of earlier happiness, shared dreams, moments of what seemed like genuine connection that may have existed before the abuse became dominant. The mechanism is not nostalgia. It's neurological manipulation. By triggering memories associated with dopamine release, your abuser exploits conditioned pathways that remain active after the separation if they have not yet been healed. This often targets moments when you felt successful as a partner or as a father. Your abuser reminds you of the trip you took together, or the birth of your child, or the night that you talked until dawn. She speaks of the man that she fell in love with, implying that version still exists and could be recovered. The memories she summoned are real. The future she implies is not. A message arrives on your anniversary or on your son's birthday or just a random Tuesday with a photo attached from years ago. I found this today. We were so happy. I miss who we were. You look at that photo, you remember that day, and for a moment, the years of pain blur. You remember the version of the relationship that existed before everything went wrong. The version you kept trying to get back to. Your abuser's offering it again. And part of you wants to believe that version was the real one. That everything since was a detour you could perhaps correct. The trap is that the memories are genuine. You did have those good times. You did love her at the time. You did build something that mattered to you. Attachment recall weaponizes that truth. It asks you to weigh real memories against real harm, and then suggests the memories should win. But the early version of the relationship was just a mask. It was a setup. The good times were part of the trap. Returning to chase them means returning to everything that came after. Type 2 is sexual rebonding. Sexual rebonding uses physical intimacy to re-establish connection after separation. Sex releases oxytocin, the neurochemical associated with bonding and trust. By initiating sexual contact, she exploits that biological mechanism to blur boundaries that you have established. The encounter may feel like reconciliation, closure, or even mutual weakness. It is none of these. It is chemical manipulation. The cultural script says that you can compartmentalize sex, that it's just physical, that you should be able to handle it without emotional consequence. You might even believe this yourself. But the neurochemistry does not distinguish between casual and meaningful contact. The bonding occurs regardless of intention, and the encounter often comes with strings, implied promises, renewed expectations, or ammunition for later claims about the nature of the separation. It happens during a handover with the kids or a meeting to discuss logistics. She's dressed differently, she touches your arm, one thing leads to another, and suddenly you've crossed a line you swore you would not cross. Afterwards, you tell yourself it didn't mean anything, but something has shifted. The clean break you were building towards is now muddied, and she knows it. The shame that follows is particular. Not just shame at going back, but shame at being affected by something you were supposed to be able to handle. You're a man. You should be able to have sex without it meaning anything. The fact that it reactivated feelings, that it confused your resolve, that it pulled you back towards her, That feels like weakness in the one domain where you are supposed to be invulnerable. Your abuser counts on that shame. It keeps you from talking about what happened. It keeps you isolated in the confusion. Type 3 is reform performance. Reform performance is a presentation of apparent change designed to suggest that the problems causing separation have now been fully resolved. She claims to have begun therapy, found religion, recognized her behavior independently, or achieved some form of insight. The performance may even include tangible evidence, like appointment cards or books on relationships, or even changed vocabulary that mirrors therapeutic language. The mechanism is not actual change. It is the appearance of change deployed to regain access to you. This exploits something specific. You may have spent years hoping she would see what she was doing, begging her to go to therapy, hoping your abuser would change. Now she appears to be doing exactly that. The temptation to reward this apparent growth, to give her the chance you always wanted to give, can be overwhelming. Your abuser's finally doing what you asked. How can you reject it without proving you never really wanted things to work? Your abuser calls and her voice is different, softer. She says she's been seeing someone, a therapist. She's been doing the work. She finally understands what she put you through. She uses words you recognize from your own research, like accountability or emotional regulation, or even attachment wounds. Your abuser says she knows she can't undo the past, but she's not the same person anymore. She might even say she's not asking you to come back. She just wanted you to know. Then the call ends, and you are left holding something you did not know what to do with. The thing you begged for has apparently arrived. Rejecting her now feels like bad faith. Reform performance is time limited. It lasts precisely as long as necessary to re-establish access to the victim. Once you're back within reach, the performance ends and the patterns resume. The vocabulary fades. The therapy appointments space out until they stop. The insight she demonstrated proves shallow, and you find yourself back inside the dynamic you escaped, except now you're further from the exit and more drained than before. Your abuser did not change, she just learned new language to hoover you back in. Protecting yourself from hoovering requires understanding that the pull you feel is not evidence that you should go back. The craving is a trauma response, not a signal. Your nervous system was conditioned by years of intermittent reinforcement. It will take time and support from a coach like myself to decondition that. Until then, you need structure that protects you from decisions made in activated states. The first tool is simple: delayed response. When your abuser reaches out, do not reply immediately. The initial surge of feeling, whether it's hope or guilt or longing or obligation, is that trauma bond reactivating. It is not information about what you should do. Build in a waiting period before any response to a message. 24 hours minimum. Let the activation settle before you make decisions. What feels urgent in the moment very rarely is. The second tool is external reality checking. Before responding to any Hoover attempt, talk to someone who knows the full history. If you're in with a coach like myself, that also helps. Not someone who will tell you what you want to hear, but someone who will remind you of what you've already lived. The pull towards hurt narrows your vision. An outside perspective widens it. Let someone who cares about you read the message, hear the voicemail, know what she's offering. Their response will help you see what the trauma bond obscures. The third tool is documentation review. Keep a record of what actually happened within the relationship. Not the good memories she's trying to activate, the reality of the relationship. When hoovering pulls you towards the past, read your own account of that past. Read the journal entries from the worst nights. Read the messages you sent to friends when you were desperate. Read the list of incidences you compiled when you were trying to convince yourself it was bad enough to leave. The version she's selling is not the version you lived. Your own documentation is the antidote to her false narrative. Hoovering works because leaving was never the end. The trauma bond built through years of intermittent reinforcement doesn't dissolve after separation. It just waits. And your abuser knows how to reactivate it. The pull you feel is real. The longing, the hope, the part of you that still wants to believe she could be the person she's pretending to be. That maybe it was all real. But real doesn't mean reliable. The pull is a conditioned response, not a compass. It tells you what your nervous system was trained to crave. It does not tell you what is safe. You left for a reason, probably for dozens of reasons. The fact that she's now performing change, summoning good memories, or offering intimacy does not erase any of those reasons. It means she just wants access to you. And access is what you removed when you left. Holding that line is hard. It requires you to tolerate the discomfort of craving without acting on it. It requires you to disappoint her, which may feel like cruelty when you've been trained to meet her needs. It requires you to sit with uncertainty about whether she really has changed, knowing you may never get a definite answer. But you already did the hardest thing. You left. Everything she's doing now is an attempt to undo that. Don't let her. This is Stand Again, lived experience platform for male survivors of family violence. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Your voice might just help another man find his. If you're looking for one-on-one support, you can book coaching with a member of the Stand Again team. Simply visit standagain.com.au, where you will also find grounded information on surviving and recovering from family violence as a man. As always, remember that no matter how many times you've been knocked down, you can stand again.